This is Louis, and if you want to support my channel, head on over to JList or head on over to Play Asia. Check out their summer sale, which is still going but will be ending soon as it's starting to head towards the end of the summer. If you don't feel like buying anything, support me on Patreon, which many of you do, and I hope that more people will. All the links can be found in the description.
So this is Louis, and now that my neighbor has stopped ruining my fucking, takes by making all kinds of fucking noise, I can actually try to record something. It's what happens when you have your window open, because it's humid as shit out, for whatever reason. I went for a jog just an hour ago, and for whatever reason I got back, and I took a couple sips of a mixed drink I had, but I threw it out because I have to go to bed, somewhat soon, and I don't want to get all hopped up on caffeine. I noticed, man, I'm sweating like a motherfucker. I don't get it, and so I still don't get it, but I think it has to do with the humidity. And I don't know what it is around here. Just fucking humidity goes up at night, and then I'm just sweating like a fucking dog. Anyways, that's kind of besides the point. I wanted to talk about the High Guardian Spice controversy around Crunchyroll because I had a few people DM me about that, private message me asking me to talk about it because I've talked about Crunchyroll in the past. I have a Crunchyroll account, although it's been long unused. I mean, going on 3 years, maybe longer. I haven't even touched it, and I actually have an affiliate account with them that I've never offered to any of you or advertised because I just don't use the service, and that's why I don't advertise it. But I can tell you now, with this most recent controversy, I have no intention of ever advertising their company on my channel because by all appearances they are going down the road of getting woke and going broke, as many people are now talking about, because it's pretty obvious when you have an SJW project on your hands. And the telltale sign of something that is SJW is when it requires corporate financing. It is not Ethan Van Sciver making $500,000 or however much, I think it's more than that, on a single comic, or it's some random jagoff named Diversity Comics, who goes on to make, what even was the amount? 300,000, 400,000? I don't even remember how much fucking money he made on the one comic that he did. And he's also made, I think, tens of thousands on the follow-up one that Indiegogo that he created. When you are independent and making content people actually want to see, you don't have to have corporate backing. You could just make it. If you have a good idea or if you have talent, just put it out there, okay? It's not 1987 where you need investors anymore. If you're starting a business, then maybe, but the internet has opened an entire range of financing for anybody, whether it's me and going through Patreon or Super Chats through YouTube or going on Indiegogo or Kickstarter and creating a public funding campaign and sourcing that investment through just general people that want to, put in $10, $20, however much money to see the project, created. We don't live in a period anymore where outside of extremely expensive projects, you don't need, and even when it's expensive, if it's good enough, if enough people want it, there's enough natural demand for it, you will get financing for it. If it's something as big as, let's say, Gab, a platform like that, yeah, you're going to need, corporate investors, because there's a lot of overhead, there's people you need to hire, etc., etc., but if you're just doing a comic book, an anime, a manga, a video game that's not fucking Cyberpunk or GTA, you don't need a company to finance you. You don't need that. And if you do, then it's usually limited. And it's usually a publishing deal. And most often, from what I've seen in video games, a lot of companies or developers come to regret that. They seem to get fucked over a lot by publishers, so the investment's typically not worth it. But if you need it, then you need it. But this issue with High Guardian Spice, the concern that people have is the fact that it's so obviously an SJW project that it calls into question the entirety of Cyberpunk, of Crunchyroll, and it's because there was no reason for them to back this particular shitty CalArts-inspired so-called anime, Western animation. There was no reason for them to do this. One of the major complaints that people use their service have is that the service itself is not perfect. It's not just the overlay of it, which I haven't really seen in the last year or so, but I can tell you that it's never been particularly good. It's not Hulu, it's not Netflix, it's kind of old and not perfectly functional, and not aesthetically pleasing, I'll say that. That's probably my biggest criticism of it. More so than that is the fact that it has tons of technical problems, and I've been told by many people that use the service, or used it rather, that I shouldn't use it because they've had so many problems with it, and it's because they're big, or they're heavy anime viewers, and they dislike the service because they never deliver on time, or they have all kinds of technical issues. And now the obvious is that the people at the company have an outward political bias. And the bias isn't something that's contained to the majority of the people working at our company are left-leaning. It is the majority of the people at our company are progressives. And the natural problem that people have with progressives are those that have experienced what happens with them before in any avenue that or medium that is to do with media. You realize that they are totalitarians. They don't tolerate you holding a different position to them. You can't be anything left of, not even Bernie Sanders, Cortez, the bitch in New York, unless you are an out-and-out socialist who has really regressive feminist viewpoints. You, to them, are a Nazi. And I'm sure that you're going to find your layman progressives who's going to begrudge that and go, "Oh, I don't think that. I don't think that. I think that's a mischaracterization of our movement." It's like, no, you have orthodoxy. Despite how scattershot and schizophrenic your ideology is, you have orthodoxy. And the orthodoxy is that anyone that is not you is not acceptable to you. And so if I am to be recognized as acceptable by Crunchyroll standards, I must be like them. I should be on board with financing a project that is poorly animated, that has a lazy art style, generic art style, that is comparable to just about anything on Cartoon Network, rather than something coming out of fucking Japan with some quality behind it. It's not even comparable to Japanese animation outside of what it's completely ripping off, which is that that witch anime, which I don't remember the name of, and oh god, there's another anime that it is directly ripping off of that I'm forgetting the name of offhand, that people that probably watch anime would be able to tell me, and you could just tell me in the comment section. There's 2 or 3 I've seen it compared to that I really see it, especially that witch anime. I definitely see it. But being that I haven't watched anything anime-wise in years, I'm not really in the loop, so to say, as it relates to, what's actually coming out of Japan. But I can tell you that it's pretty clear why there's a lot of people taking issue with this. It's not just the fact that they're financing directly an SJW project, which, by the way, there's no bones about it. It doesn't even pretend that this is anything more than an SJW project, because back when I was in college, I took a few different creative writing courses, and one of the things that I do on occasion is come up with just a plot or a setting of a place, and it's usually something that's based off of something else that I've watched or read, or played even. I come up with a plot, I come up with characters, I think about the setting and the dynamic between the characters, and it never really goes anywhere. I used to write it all down and, turn that in as work and essays, but I don't really do that much anymore. I don't really write much anymore in terms of creative fiction, but what I like to do is just come up with stories when I'm bored, and it's something that I've done for a very long time in my life. I just come up with stories, and one of the things that I can tell you as somebody who is a fairly creative person, I just don't actually do much in terms of being creative outside of what I do here on YouTube. For someone that's a decently creative person, I have been for the extent of my life, the thing that is the least important about a story is the author. When you're reading a story done by any author that's worth reading, you don't give a shit about the author. When you're reading something by Stephen King, you don't care about Stephen King unless you realize that the characters that he's creating, when they're like alcoholic writers and that's the protagonist, it's self-insert, or at least it was at one point. But if it's someone like George R.R. Martin, it's not about him. It's not about him as a writer. It's not about the writer. It's not about the author. If it is, you'd read their autobiography. That's when it fucking matters. But outside of autobiographies, it doesn't matter. You may want to pick their brain and, where'd you come up with this and that sort of thing. Like, talk to them in a Q&A at a convention or something like that, or an interview on a news show or a morning show. But when you're reading the fiction itself, or watching the fiction, or playing the fiction, the author does not matter. The writing team does not matter. The people producing it do not matter. The editors don't matter. It's only in ego-driven projects where that matters, where anyone gives a shit how many front holes you have on a project. To anyone that actually cares about fiction, it doesn't matter if you have a room full of straight men. Because if it were, let's say, a Japanese anime or manga, if it's all Japanese men creating a project, that's not a problem for them. It's not a problem for anyone who's sane. Because the whole idea of, you're not going to come up with diverse characters, well, who cares if they're diverse? You don't need diverse characters. What if I don't want to represent everyone in my story? What if I want to tell a particularly, narrow story in a particularly narrow setting with, let's say, only whites and men? If it's good fiction, if it's a good story, if I create good characters, why does it matter what their skin color is or anything else that these fucking totalitarians factor in to their ridiculous, ideologically driven nonsense in terms of a checklist for how to create fucking fiction? Why would it matter to anyone but those people? And that's the thing. When you see a lot of fence sitters, to be polite, online, on Twitter, on YouTube, wherever, when they, tell you about, I value diversity, I value inclusion, I value representation, what they're doing is just handing over the argument that the progressives want them to make. It's the progressive argument. I don't actually care about diversity. I don't actually care about what your skin color is in terms of the writing staff, or the person sweeping the floors, or editing people's work. It doesn't fucking matter what their genitalia is, or any other factor. All that matters is the product good or bad, or somewhere in between? Mediocre. I want to hear about the product. And I think that, when you listen to me on my channel, you hear me screaming a lot, you hear me getting angry, and it is because I oftentimes am genuinely angry at some of the things that, come in front of my face and I read. But the thing is that I can't stand how often I see it, how many people just concede the progressives' argument, that just stump for their entire case, and then like to see themselves as sitting on the fence. And it's like, well, no, I'm sorry. Anyone who's being, actually open-minded would be able to understand that all that matters is the fiction. That's all that matters. No one's stopping a black person or anybody else from writing their own fiction. If it's good enough, it'll sell. If it isn't, then it won't. If I have some sort of unconscious bias, some bias like running around in my head that I can't even understand or fathom, that prevents me, in essence, to watch something done by a black person or any other, and then I just knee-jerk react and say, oh no, this is foreign to me and I don't like it, well then guess what? You're just going to have to consign yourself to that. You're just going to have to accept that. I'm not accepting you formatting my mind just because you have some insane, unexplainable explanation for why not enough people, why 13% of the population in the United States is not overly represented in fiction, or anything else, any other minority. You see all these white men in the room, many of whom are Jews when it comes to media, and or journalism, it seems. Or economics, it seems as well. Just that tweet the other day of some random Jewish guy with the brackets in his name to like virtue signal that he's against the alt-right, where he goes, I have to find this tweet, but he says something to the extent of like, there's no such thing as nations, it's just an economy. Like that's what he's most loyal to. And it's like, Jesus Christ, like when you're Jewish, maybe like throttle back a little bit on the fucking globalism and the lunatic utopianism. I'm just saying, like, it's what breeds conspiracies. So just let's pull it back a little bit on that. Anyways, but the point is that as it relates to people in fiction, as it relates to Hollywood, there's a lot of Jews. There's a lot of white people. But guess what? It's because Jews are high IQ. And it's because they're very functional, and they work very hard, and they climb the ladder very easily because they're willing to dedicate their lives to doing that. There's also a lot of white people that happen to be the majority population, or demographic, I should say, in the United States, that are willing to climb the corporate ladder and, you know, write harder and do comedy harder and create games harder than anybody else. They're willing to compete harder than anybody else, and people like me, who are the uber-mentioned white man, apparently, according to progressives, I don't do that. I make shitty videos like this and put them out on YouTube where, you know, 6,000, 7,000 people view them. Those are just the facts as they are. You and your fucking insane bullshit is not going to change any of that, especially when you're taking the money out of people's pockets that want to support a foreign industry and investing it in trash made by fucking ideologues. That's not helping anyone. It's amazing to me how much people can blather on about diversity and fucking inclusion and all this shit, representation, and then you get a writer's room full of fucking white women. Ugly, dumpy fucking white women. Women that are fighting their biology. It's hard, and I was about to go on another spiel about a friend of mine that I just interacted with who was DMing me, and where he just broke up with his girlfriend, and I was talking to him about this TV host who I saw, I think I mentioned this in a stream, where it was this TV host and she was talking to some guy, I think he was a conservative commentator, I can't quite remember offhand, and she was like 41 or 42 years old, thinking that she's going to have, like, she's going to get married and she's going to have kids just sometime soon, and it's like, bitch, you are, like, screaming towards menopause. You are, like, a couple years out from fucking menopause, and you think you're going to have kids. And she's not even dating. Anyways, I mentioned that for the sake of the women in that writing room who are all in their, like, 30s, like their mid-30s, and I'm just looking at them like, good luck, ladies. You're here fighting the good fight of fucking being, like, less than average attraction. Like, just, you're not even plain. You are ugly and fat. And you are in your mid-30s thinking you're fighting the power, fighting the white man, fighting the patriarchy, by having a bunch of fucking weebs fund your shitty rip-off Western animation show that is the least inspired thing I've ever fucking seen. But I've said this a million times already. I've been harping on this so much recently that as it relates to these fucking people, it's not about creating anything good. It's about making the right material in line with their ideology. So when you look at this and it looks lazy as shit, well, it's like, it's She-Ra, it's everything else that people have been talking about recently. It's Mass Effect Andromeda, it's fucking everything. It's just for the sake of being on the right side of history. You know, it's just for the sake of virtue signaling. It's not about anything more than that. It's not about being creative or making good fiction or creating inclusive fiction that also happens to be fucking good, as the Japanese have managed to do. It's funny to me to watch all of the content coming out of Japan, especially anime and manga, as it relates to what's called boys love and girls love, where it's like they don't have any problems creating that content, where it is all about just creating something that people can enjoy and find to be romantic or anything else. Like, it's not explicitly ideological. There's nothing in there about discrimination, and usually if there is anything about discrimination, it's not on the nose, typically, I've found. I've played games, or visual novels, I should say, that include some aspects of, like, social justice where this person's gay in Japan and they have been discriminated against to some degree, but it's always, like, surface level in a mention. It's not fucking on the nose, I'm a victim, fuck the yellow whatever man, whatever it would be in Japan, however they would view white supremacy in fucking Japan. As ridiculous as that sounds, I mean, you just have to compare it to the United States. Is like, I don't even understand how they would fight for social justice in Japan. Like, I guess they would have to blame everything on imperialism. It would be just like the English, or the British, I guess I could say. It's just like, in American culture, it's fucking white supremacy and fucking colonialism, which I always roll my eyes at. But it's always white supremacy, you know. It's always the KKK and the white man keeping the woman out of the office place and yada yada. Where it's like, and that's the whole point of like, I'm gonna be this uber successful television host, and I'm in my 40s, and I'm fucking cat mom, and I'm a lonely old bag, and I'm a 40-year-old millionaire spinster who deludes herself to thinking I'm gonna have a kid. You have to pick your fucking battle. You have to pick what life you want to live. And you want to go out there and fight the machine, baby. Fight the white man. Fight the man, period. Where are you going to land in the end? You're just going to be an old fucking spinster. That's the future for all these women. For all that room full of women that are fighting the man by representing fucking girls with random skin tones and random hair colors in a shitty rip-off show. They think they're fighting the man, but in 20 years, they're going to be sticking a fucking 9mm in their mouth, like Mel Gibson style, going home every night, drinking a box wine and, finding a reason to not fucking kill themselves. And as bleak and as flippant as I'm being about that, it's because it's the truth. It's why I don't go along with this shit, is that these women are fucking miserable. They're humorless. They're ideologues. They spend their lives chasing after this fucking idea of utopia when it's just diluted nonsense. Fucking retards. Play a BioShock game and realize that you're Sophia Lamb. You're just this diluted collectivist fucking cunt. And in the end, you're gonna nothing you want is gonna ever be achieved. And you're a manipulative fucking bitch. A liar. A person who's deceiving everyone around her. I know that I'm sort of going off on some definite tangents in this, but I think it is related to this topic at hand. And people ask me. I'm just telling you what I think because people requested me to talk about it. There's so much about this that if you were to just get me in a room with some of these people and I could contain my autistic rage, to put it bluntly, I would just ask them, like, do you think this is going to make you happy? Do you think you're going to be self-actualized by having this shit produced? Like, what difference do you think this is really going to make? Like, if it's the whole system is evil, like, if you actually believe that and you need to tear it all down, what is this even going to achieve? Or is this just a check to you? I mean, is that all this is to you? Is just having a bunch of weebs pay for your bullshit so you can fucking buy some more ramen in your apartment at the age of 34? You people are fucking pathetic. What you need is some Jordan Peterson in your life. You need to clean your fucking room. Stop thinking you're going to change fucking humanity. You're going to change the world by creating crappy fiction. Just let go of your totalitarian fucking garbage. Your spastic urges to change the world. Realize that you are a dumpy white woman. A dumpy bourgeois white woman who has an apartment in her 30s that is not all that impressive, who lives in the West Coast, the left coast, who has a dyke haircut but is apparently straight, who is alone and is never going to achieve shit. You can virtue signal all day on Twitter. You haven't actually accomplished anything. You haven't actually achieved anything. You aren't achieving anything by what you're doing. You can have all the weebs in the world pay for your stupid bullshit, but it's still never going to accomplish anything. I mean, that's really the sure sign of a lot of this, including just recently with Battlefield 5, which I'm working on a Patreon video for, which I don't know if it's going to happen because I've been quite busy this week, and this weekend's also not slowing down much, so not too sure if I'll be able to finish that up and put it out for everyone to see. But the Battlefield 5 issue, to me, is so evident of everything that's wrong in the Western industry, where the pre-orders are so bad. They're so fucking bad that I think that everyone is just scrambling to excuse it. But it's just funny to watch, because it's like I can just sit back and do nothing and just watch you fucking fail and not achieve a goddamn thing. I don't have to do anything. I can just sit my ass in this chair and just pontificate into my microphone, and you will fail. That's the whole beauty of the get woke, go broke phenomena, which I greatly credit, even though he didn't coin it, I credit Jeremy from Unsleeved Media, or The Quartering, I should say, for really promoting it and mainstreaming it. And his channel has grown ridiculously, especially after that angry joke controversy, which it's amazing because I'm in Sargon's Discord with him, and I was saying to him, like, you gotta do a follow-up video, man. You gotta capitalize on this. This is too good. You're gonna gain, like, I said, like, 10,000 subs or somewhere around there, like thousands. He gains like 20K. It's amazing how many subs he gained in like the last few weeks. It's just so funny to watch because these people fucking hate him. The people that I see as my personal enemies because they have made, they're enemies of me because they've chosen to be that way. So I regard them as the same as they are my enemies. They fucking hate him. And so watching him succeed is just hilarious to me. It's just amazing for me to just sit back and watch his channel grow and have all these people just fuming, you know, seething. Oh, I hate Jeremy. Oh, he's a sexist and all this other shit. And it's like, it doesn't really matter. You attack him, you beat him in the back of the head, and it gets stronger and stronger. It's just amazing to watch. And I've seen some criticism of him, and that's fine. Feel free to criticize him. I don't find him to be the best commentator out there, and obviously I'm not either. I consider Sargon to be one of the better ones. But with him, I find it amazing just based on his channel growth and the fact that these people just hate him so fucking much. It shows, in my opinion, that it's because he's successful. He's doing well. And he's making the points that he's making. And a lot of people are flocking to him. That's why they don't like him. It's because they see him as direct competition because he is. He is their enemy because they have dubbed him so. So that's the way it is. But I'll leave it at that because I've been talking for long enough. I hope this satisfies those of you that asked me to talk about the issue of High Guardian Spice from Crunchyroll, which I suggest for those of you that watch anime, unlike me, maybe shout out a different service. It's like when I talked about the NRA and people chastised me for having a membership for a year there, which I believe is about to expire in my regard. They said I should join Gun Owners of America. So if you have that kind of different service for anime that's not Crunchyroll, feel free to shout it out in the comment section. And suggest to people what to use as an alternative instead of Crunchyroll because of their totalitarian leanings. But I'll leave it there. Thanks for listening.